The continuous process of bone deposition and bone resorption is called bone remodeling. There are three reasons for bone remodeling. The first is to maintain calcium homeostasis. The bone gets remodeled as a result of that. The second is to repair any micro damage that occurs on the bone due to everyday stresses. And the third reason is for reshaping and growth of the bone. Now let's take a look at the embryological formation of bones. Depending upon the type of bone that we're dealing with, the formation is different. We could be either dealing with flat bones, such as bones of the skull, or long bones, such as the femur, humerus, tibia, ulna, fibula, etc. With the flat bones, we have intramembranous ossification. Intra meaning within the membrane, and ossification, ossify, is to make something into bone. For the long bones, the type of process involved is called endochondral ossification. Endo meaning inside and chondral meaning cartilage. This means the long bone is made from the cartilage that's inside that later becomes bone. Let's take a closer look at endochondral ossification. We are looking at the fetus, which is a few weeks old. We will start with a small cartilaginous model that will be gradually replaced by spongy bone, which will be further replaced by compact bone. So here we have a cartilaginous model that is made up of hyaline cartilage, and it is surrounded by a layer of cartilage called the perichondrium. Now, as our fetus grows, this cartilage skeleton continues to grow, and the cartilage cells or chondrocytes in the center of this model become very active, and at some point they start to die out. When they start to die out, they leave spaces in the cartilaginous model, and these spaces can be replaced by bone. Here we see the periosteum shown in red that lines the cartilaginous model. Remember that osteoblasts are in the periosteum. They can travel to the center of the bone and slowly replace the cartilage with bone. And we call this the primary ossification center. And the bone that's formed is spongy bone. Now our fetus has grown even bigger and the secondary ossification centers start to develop. In the meantime, the spongy bone starts to get slowly replaced by the medullary cavity. Here we have the bone at birth. The diaphyseal region is fully developed with compact bone and is richly supplied with blood vessels. The epiphyseal region is slowly becoming spongy bone. It is richly supplied with blood vessels so that the chondrocytes there, once they die, can be replaced by bony tissue. Here we have the bone during childhood, before puberty. So before puberty, there is the diaphyseal region is all compact bone. The epiphyseal region has a lot of cartilage. It has retained some cartilage at the edges, which becomes the articular cartilage, which reduces friction during movement. There is an epiphyseal plate that marks the junction between the diaphysis and the epiphyseal regions. We also call this the growth plate because this is where growth in length takes place during puberty. Once puberty is finished, the epiphyseal plate becomes very thin and it is just an epiphyseal line. Let's take a closer look at intramembranous ossification, which is involved in the formation of flat bones of the skull. As the name indicates, it involves several layers of fibrous connective tissue membranes that are laid down. So there are many layers of cells, connective tissue cells, that are formed at first, and some of these cells differentiate into mesenchymal cells. These specialized mesenchymal cells further differentiate to form osteoblasts. As we know, osteoblasts make the bone matrix. And once the bone matrix is made, the osteoblast can now mature into osteocytes that maintain the bone matrix. So we have osteoblasts lining the bone matrix. Here's the bone matrix, and the cells in the middle are the osteocytes with the cellular extensions. They maintain the bone matrix. As this process continues, the osteoblasts form the spongy bone at the center, and slowly this bone is remodeled into compact bone on the sides. So ultimately, the flat bones have a sandwich-like structure with compact bones on either side and a spongy bone at the center. A significant amount of bone remodeling takes place when a bone is fractured and must heal itself. So the first thing that happens when a bone breaks is that there is a considerable amount of bleeding. Within the first few hours of the fracture, a hematoma is formed. We call this the fracture hematoma. Within the next 48 hours, chondrocytes from the periosteum and the endosteum migrate to the point of injury and form a fibrocartilage. This fibrocartilage stabilizes the area of injury. We call it the soft callus. Over the next few weeks, osteoclasts break down any remaining bits of bone from the fracture, and osteoblasts multiply and they release the bone matrix. And they form the spongy bone around the blood vessels. Over time, the spongy bone is replaced by compact bone. And that is when we say that the bone is healed. But the remodeling can continue months and years afterwards in order to bring the shape of the bone back to normal.